Tomorrow. Tomorrow. So. Hi, good morning. My name is Cindy Tamayo. I'm the chairperson for the State Board of Physical Therapy here in Hawaii. Before we get started today, we will be playing a video to explain how this virtual meeting will be managed. Thank you.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras.
Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Okay, the agenda today is posted on the state electronic calendar as required by HRS section 92-7B. If you wish to submit written testimony on any agenda item, please email your testimony to phys_therapy@dcca.hawaii.gov or by hard copy mail to attention Board of Physical Therapy, P.O. Box 3469, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96801. We request submission. Sorry, my alarm's going off. Submission of testimony at least 24 hours prior to the meeting to ensure that it's distributed to the board members. Internet access for this meeting. To view the meeting and provide live oral testimony, please use the link at the top of the agenda. You will be asked to enter your name. The board requests that you enter your full name, but you may use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address. You may fill in this field with any entry in an email format. For example, **** at **mail.com. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about that agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish. Phone access. If you do not have internet access, you may get audio-only access by calling the Zoom phone number listed at the top of the agenda. Upon dialing the number, you will be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you will be asked to either enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted to the meeting. You will not have a panelist number. Next page. So wait until you're admitted into the meeting. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate that you want to testify by entering asterisk and then 9 on your phone keypad. By entering the asterisk and then the 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing the asterisk and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter the asterisk, star, and then 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specified date and time. This information will be provided on the board website at https://cca.hawaii.gov/pvl/meeting_schedule/. Instructions to attend State of Hawaii virtual board meetings may be found online at https://cca.hawaii.gov/pvl/files/2020-08/state-of-hawaii-board-attendee-instructions.pdf. I'll now take roll call. After I say your name, please identify that you are here by saying here. Joanne Zazera.
Here, and no one is present with me in the room.
Stacy Kali'inoi.
Here, no one is present with me in the room.
Michelle Chi.
Here and present, no one is here with me in the room.
And I am here, and there's no one in the room with me either, Cindy Tamayo. Okay, we can start the meeting with the approval of the board minutes from our last meeting, which was in November 14th, 2023. Did everyone get a chance to review, and does anyone want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
Hi, Stacy. Kelly, I move to approve those minutes from November.
And I will need a second on that too. Anyone want to second it?
Well,
This is Michelle. I second the approval.
Okay, great. The next item on the agenda is the continuing competence course approval requests.
We need to do the vote. We need to do the vote.
Oh, sorry. We all approve it. Okay, so I will take a vote for approval of the minutes. Everyone in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed to approving the board minutes? Okay, the minutes pass. Sorry, jumping ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the continuing competence course approval request. The continuing competence course request for review. There were 2 upper extremity level 2 and advanced full body level 2. First one was for 7 units, the second for 22. I don't know who the program sponsor was. Is this the one I reviewed a long time ago? Or did someone else review this?
It was Joanne who reviewed it.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Does anyone have any questions? Did you have anything to say about these, Joanne? Otherwise, we can move to approve these.
No, I think they were thorough. And there was another course that I also approved. I don't know if it's too late to add that in there too.
No, I can. Or do you want to wait till the next meeting?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be at the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then I'll need a motion to approve these 2 courses for the units that are identified here.
I, Joanne Zazera, move to approve these 2 continuing competency courses.
Second,
I, Stacey Killian, I second the motion to approve the courses.
okay. Okay, the board may enter into executive session to consider and evaluate personal information. What? Oh, sorry, vote again. There's so few of us, it seems like we already are voted
I
for.
know, sorry. For the record, you know.
Just sliding right along here. Come on. Okay, sorry. We have a motion and it's been seconded to approve these courses. I'll take a vote now for the approval of these 2 courses. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody have are not wanting to vote for these to move forward? Any negative note? No. Okay, so these 2 courses are now voted on and approved. Thank you very much. Golly, you need a sign just put up. Okay. It's because I don't have a double screen. I can't put my meeting my text up there. I have to do it all by memory, and that's a scary thing these days. The board may enter into executive session to consider and evaluate personal information relating to the individuals applying for a professional or vocational license. And according to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-5A1. And to consult with the board's attorney on questions or issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, immunities, and liabilities in accordance to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 95-5A4. So I need to see if there's anyone wants to does anyone want to provide testimony to the license applications for Michelle Crafton?
I don't think we have anybody in attendance.
Nobody there. So
No.
nobody wants to so now do we need to take a vote to go into executive session?
We need to make a motion first and then a vote.
Yeah, I'm trying to go the other way now. Anyone want to move to go into executive session to discuss the application?
It's Michelle Chi. I motion that we move to executive session.
I, Stacey Killian, I second the motion. Oh, there.
Okay, now we'll vote.
Yes.
Had a motion and seconded. Do I need to do it by roll call? I know I realized I was supposed to. Okay, is everyone in favor of moving to executive session? Yes. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, so now we have to move into teams.
Yes.
So mute, turn off your video, and then go to teams.
Yes.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
sure if I have the link for Teams. Can someone send it to me again for
I
Teams?
think we just resent it, so just double check your inbox.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we're all here, we need a motion on the license for Michelle Crafton.
I, Stacy Killiano, motion to approve Michelle Crofton's application for PT licensure.
And
And
a
Michelle
second.
Chi second the motion to approve Michelle Crafton for PT licensure in Hawaii.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion to approve Michelle Crafton's license application has been approved. Then there's a very, very long list of applicants. Does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, we need a motion to approve this list as well.
I, Stacy Killiano, I move to approve this list of applicants.
Hey, Joanne, is there a second the motion?
All in favor of accepting the long list for licensure, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to accepting these licenses? Okay, that motion also passes to ratify the list for licensure. Moving on to the next item of business, new business, the scope of practice question. If a physical therapist has the appropriate training, are they permitted to remove sutures and staples? Somebody's pinging.
When I looked at other practice acts from many other states, all of that I could find say yes. They consider it a non-invasive procedure to remove staples and stitches, but every practice act makes two pretty clear distinctions. One, that it has to be very well documented in how the training is done, like a protocol. So I think that line there is really important, appropriate training. Not just that you got a PT licensure, but that there was additional training prior to doing this non-invasive procedure. And that some of the Practice Act went further to put in there something about if you were to detect something that didn't go the right way, how you would address that issue. I could imagine with infection or wound healing or something that created more damage to the skin or something like that would be, obviously this is outside of our practice, so then where would you refer to? The second part, that's in most of the practice acts, are about not billing for it because it isn't a billable PT service. So it's not with anesthesia and it's not with any other under the OR, it's not even a code. It would just be part of the rehabilitation process, still guided by their physician and non-invasive. Like those are some of the key words that I felt like I could agree with, you know, especially if a physician's telling somebody, oh, it'll just fall out, and it's now getting in your way of scar tissue management and really like mobilizing the area. And we're talking two lasting knots that sort of like rise to the surface of a ACL or some kind of knee replacement. A PT at that point could facilitate that stitch, but you wouldn't go in like in a PA or an orthopedic physician's assistant and really like bill for it and work on it specifically, if that makes sense. And that's my opinion when I kind of read all these other California, Florida, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, across the board. And a lot of that documentation was from the early 2000s, 2010. And I don't think that things have changed because I tried to look for something more current, but a lot of that policy looks like was written quite a while ago.
Yeah, that's some good research, Stacy. I was gonna say for our like state specifically, like we don't really have a lot of guidelines in our admin roles. Like we have a section for like integumentary repair, and then we cover that. But then I worry about that section in our practice acts about prohibitive practice. The same thing that had that issue with dry needling was like a physical therapist shall not use invasive procedures. For purposes of this section, an invasive procedure is the breaking or puncturing of a person's good skin integrity, for example, through surgery or injections. I don't know if removing sutures ends up breaking that intact skin or if it can be argued, with that specific statement. I know that wasn't necessarily the purpose that was written, but I wonder if somebody could argue that and it could lead into some conflict in the future or yeah, that was my other thought.
I also feel like the standardization for the training would be difficult to validate. That would be my primary concern. Do we know, is there an issue statewide, like with rural areas having difficulty finding a healthcare practitioner to perform these services? Or what's driving this?
Well, it's Bayada, so they're home care. But I know here in Maui, sometimes they don't have enough nurses to service all the different areas. So I think, if it's a matter of all they need is that taken out kind of thing, but they have therapists going in, it's probably more timely and easier to manage if they already have a provider going in instead of sending another provider out to do what they consider a simple procedure. Because most of I'm assuming, although I thought in the thing, I'm guessing that's a typo. Yeah, it's sutures and staples. It wasn't abdominal. Because when I first read it, I thought they were abdominal sutures, and I'm like, why are we in the abdomen? But
no, I think it's a typo.
Okay, yeah, because I would assume it's probably orthopedic procedures. Yeah, because at first I was like, no.
It's intense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's probably orthopedic procedures that therapists are already going in and nursing really isn't being provided to them because they probably don't need nursing. And so they're just wanting to avoid having to send a nurse out to do it or sending the patient back to the doctor. Which under those circumstances, I certainly understand, but I would have, appropriate training, like you said, that doesn't really specify what is appropriate training. A 30-minute MedBridge course on identifying signs of infection or and I think Joanne's point is a good one in that perhaps when you pull the suture or the staple, the incision might open up and therefore now you have non-intact skin. So
and then say in worst case scenarios, this person wasn't well trained and it removed the sutures, it turned it up to get an infection and then turned into a larger wound, then would that therapist then be breaking the law? Because this isn't our practice act.
Yeah.
It's kind of
our practice act right now doesn't cover this. And so I think if we wanted to say it's okay, then I think verbiage needs to be put in, like Stacy was saying, in the other states that she looked at, it actually kind of identified that. Because I don't think we can just say, yeah, use your best judgment as to what appropriate training is. We're not saying that it's not okay, perhaps, to remove sutures and staples, but I think we would like to define what appropriate training is, or at least to some level. I don't know.
Sorry, this is Christopher. Does the regular first aid and CPR training cover any of that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What about when, in clinicals for PT, they don't cover that either?
Not
In the basic,
necessarily.
yeah, in the basic like doctor of physical therapy program, they have like integumentary courses where you have to learn how to do wound healing, and they can do debridement, sharp debridement, and things like that. But that is with, skin that is not intact and not healthy. So they do learn some of those skills, but my course is never talked about anything about removing suture, so it definitely requires that additional continuing education. So there's some basic knowledge on integumentary systems, but not to the degree of suture removal. I don't know if anybody else had that in their courses, but yeah, it definitely requires additional stuff.
Well, and sutures and staples are so very different. I mean, taking staples out, you have to use a tool. Sutures, and sometimes you're just pulling. They could already be kind of coming apart or whatever. The end of it might be still sticking there, and you kind of just pull it out. But staples, that's they're in there much more firmly, I guess.
Usually staples are removed by the physicians. So that would be outside of their scope of practice. So removing staples is outside of the scope of practice.
Yeah, I think for the majority of the practice acts that I saw from these other states, they mentioned it, right? That it's not clearly within the PT scope for practice, but because there's this sort of subspecialty out of the 10 that talk about wound healing, I feel like that becomes a little bit of that gray area we're talking about, like intact skin versus a wound. These PTs who graduated with a doctor of physical therapy and then get additional training to become like wound specialists. Who then feel like a lot more comfortable with things like removing firm staples or going into the OR with other physicians. But like to second everyone else's point, it's who's doing the suture removal and who's doing the staples, that if we make a statement that says that's just not what PTs do here, that really maybe would close a door for some of those people who are like highly trained in that area.
I do feel comfortable, like I don't feel comfortable approving it, say like in this meeting, but I think like if there was a large group of people, like wound care specialists who wanted to advocate for changing something like that and define it within the administrative roles, I think that would be, better prep work to make some kind of changes like that. But I think that would have to come from like a larger group who's, defines it really well.
Yeah, I don't think we can approve based on this letter from Bayada. I don't think we can say in practice, that it may be okay under certain circumstances, but we need to define what those circumstances are. And that's, like Joanne says, a larger discussion, because there would have to be some verbiage in the rules that would define what those circumstances are. So I think we're saying no to this, but not closing the door on it. It just needs more discussion and something more official, I guess, because it's not covered by the rules.
Yeah, and I agree. I think ultimately PT protection, if you just went in and started cutting away, it might be detrimental to the patient and the therapist, especially if you're operating on let's go with that simulation that you're on Maui and there just aren't enough services and you're just sort of scraping by with what you can, but that could turn out to be more of a desperate measure than a really well-educated, well-trained person going in there and doing what they want to do versus like maybe just asked to do by their employer because there's not enough services. Those are two totally different things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it definitely needs more looking at, because again, like you said, sutures and staples to me are kind of different levels too. But yeah. So I guess we would have to tell Bayada well, if they have appropriate training, but we need to define what that training is, so, no.
Okay.
Do we need a motion and stuff on this, or is it just a discussion?
Well, I think the board's gonna have to make a response to the communication, right? So I think you might want to approve a response.
Okay, so you would have to approve a response that the board is going to provide. I mean, I can write the letter to Fayada, but the board needs to approve for the response that will be provided.
I'm sorry, I'm still not quite understanding. We need to make a motion right now for some type of response?
Yeah.
Okay. Either Joanne or Stacy, you guys have kind of verbiage on this.
Well, maybe together, Joanne. I don't know. I mean, I feel like some of the things to summarize, right, is that we feel like our official response is not at this time, that we would need clear description of what appropriate training is, and that it is not in our scope of practice.
Yeah,
to
I say
perform.
that it is not currently in our scope of practice or defined well in our administrative roles. If that were something that they were interested in pursuing, that would require like a further discussion on defining that within our administrative roles and possibly advocacy for those changes before we can consider it.
I think the other indicator also is that there is no billable code to affiliate this for physical therapists. And that's, you know, a CMS indication that this is not within the scope of therapy at this time.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve that response.
You want to, could you read what they said?
Yeah, I got what you folks said. So we just need a motion to approve that response that you folks provided.
This is Michelle Chi. I motion to approve the response provided.
My John's there, second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the whatever the verbiage comes together from the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Bye.
Anyone opposed to the verbiage of the motion? No. Okay, I think we're good with however it comes out in the wash. We all know what we're saying. I thought that was my stomach.
Oh,
I don't know what it was, but it sounded like my stomach growling.
it's my kiki, so loud.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're moving on to the executive officer's report.
Now, this is actually a long overdue report, but it's from the Leadership Issues Forum of FSBPT last year. So it's a very informative forum that we had, and we missed Cindy from that meeting, but
I missed it.
provided the board with a synopsis of what the meeting was about. And a lot of it had to do with, I think the biggest one that they tackled this year was trying to update the Model Practice Act. So they had people from the association for each state come and along with the board administrator to tackle that task that they had, and as well as updating the regulatory training. And I think they are having board member training in person if you folks are interested also this year in May in Virginia, but you are more than welcome also to join virtually if you can't make it in there for in person. But any questions on the forum?
I think I read that one of the topics was to protect the DPT.
Yeah, so there was this, I think that it's somebody is trying to trademark DPT for dynamic personal training. And so they're currently fighting for that. And I think other
There was an extension till like August. I'm like so curious what happened after August.
I think they're still fighting it from the last time that I heard.
They didn't mention it in my meeting, so maybe they squashed it. I don't know. They have a fair amount of allies, so maybe they were able to.
Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, then we can move on to the next agenda item.
Which is my report, which is also overdue. And I mean, it's multiple days, long days, and incredible amount of information. I always value going, but I'm not going to tell you everything that was talked about in all those days, but some of the areas that they really hit on this time in the meeting was they had a whole presentation on boundary violations, and kind of from the psychological point of view, kind of what are professional boundaries. Professional boundaries should be definitely shaped by our code of ethics and the scope of practice. And everyone, the thing they were very clear on, everyone has the potential to commit boundary violations. But the question is, why do some people actually commit it? And a lot of it is lack of training, poor communication skills, really not seeing the situation the same way the other person does, really not being very aware of the situation. They also looked at the risk factors, and PT profession has very large risk factors because of what we do. The practice location, the more rural areas, they see more of boundary violations. The patient population also, 70% of people have experienced a trauma. The ones that they find committing, as well as those who report it, often have had trauma in their life before, and therefore their perception, or they're more prone to these types of violations. That isolation, there are certain vulnerabilities in people. They went through different personality types. Also on the other end, inadequate accountability. So it's not something that's innate in the person, but people who don't have peers around them to kind of check their behaviors, poor supervision or lack of supervision, policies aren't kind of guiding their behaviors, or they're not following the policies that are there. So it was a very good, they actually had kind of two different presenters on it, kind of taking a little bit different view, but I have 4 pages of notes just from the one presentation. It was very good. And then the FSBPT update, again, they're continuing to look at continuing competence. One of the big things that they're really pushing is the healthy practice self-assessment. They're not necessarily promoting it as something that you have to do in order to get licensure, but they're really supporting the states putting it as part of the licensing process to allow practitioners to do a self-check. It's not like anybody else would see the results, but just see where you are, how healthy you are. It's a self-reflection on your professional well-being. It can be a source of professional development, and that they would provide resources for if you are lacking in one area, what kind of resources you might have to build up that area. It's not quantitative standards. and it's very confidential. And that's a big thing, because people aren't going to go out there and do a survey that might make them look less. If they think that the board's looking at the scores and they're like, oh, they're gonna, take some kind of action against me because I'm not well. But that they've worked a lot on that. They've done a lot of studies with it, and they're really excited and would really like to see that become more of a standard. There was also talk about continuing education, the benefits of continuing education with competency, and I think we all know that compulsory continuing education does not make someone competent. Taking courses doesn't make you more competent. It may give you tools, whatever, but it doesn't necessarily make you more competent. They also talked about competency drift, that competency is not a static, it's not an either or, you either are competent or you're not competent. They do find over time people become less competent if they don't keep up, or they just kind of stop caring, I guess, about that, or feel that they are competent and therefore they no longer look at themselves in the right light to make sure that we're staying on top of our license and our practice. Very interesting stuff. I always learn a lot. It is exhausting. It's a lot of information, but it's very valuable. And the work that FSBPT does is really quite incredible, and we should be really proud of this part of our profession. I mean, this is a very different from the APTA, but they do work very well together. But this not only protects our practice, but it also protects the community. And that's a really nice marriage between the two. They do a lot of work. They really care about the people, the people that are kind of in the leadership of FSBPT are very passionate about what they do. And so it's always inspiring to go and hear and see them talk and be around people who really care about what they're doing. So, but I have lots more information, but I don't want to keep y'all here. And I know Department of Health is waiting to talk to me, so I'm not going to talk much more. So any questions about it? If I didn't sell you on that, I think next year the meeting is, I think, in Idaho. It's not in a fun place like Florida. It's in Iowa or Idaho, one of those. Yeah. In the middle of winter. No, it's in October. It's in October, so it might be a little chilly. So, all righty. Okay, then if no questions on that, then our next meeting.
So the next meeting is scheduled for March, but right now, if we have no applications, we'll probably postpone that meeting, but I will keep everyone updated if we do need. But for now, I have nothing we have no applications, so we'll move.
Joanne,
my last meeting next May. Or am I not?
No, May.
Yeah,
May.
Expiring.
May. So yes. I heard that you were able to get.
Did you find somebody?
Mm-hmm. Their application is in, so hopefully it's a smooth transition.
So we'll definitely should have a meeting in May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it a PT or PTA?
A PT, but I will try to get the PTA program to try to reach out to some other alums to try to get a bigger quorum or, more people to join.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, then I move to adjourn this meeting at 9:59.
Is Stacy Keeling, I second the motion.
I don't think anyone's opposed.
Yeah, you can just adjourn.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. Chris, get to your next meeting.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we-